Hello there, good people. How are you doing today? All right, here we go. All right, make sure we're all set, which it looks like we are. How are you doing? For those of you who are joining for the first time, welcome to Coffee Time Career Chat. My name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And all that means is that I really love and enjoy working with female, in particular, entrepreneurs, CEOs, professionals, executives, and helping them to up-level their professional presence and to take their careers to the next level, as well as working with those people who really need help learning how to develop a strong, sustainable, authentic professional network in a way that's purposeful and meaningful and adds value to them and their careers for the long term. So that is what I do and a little bit about who I am. And this is our Monday edition of Coffee Time Career Chat, where we talk about those things in the context of different things we might have a chit chat over coffee about, but now it's specifically regarding authentic networking. So if you've been following me for a while, yes, we did the big flip starting last week where we are now doing the networking sessions on Mondays at 10 and Wednesdays will be the recorded career chats. So just check it out. You can always catch it one way or the other on the YouTube channel, but always here on the Facebook business page. So, and all the other feeds. I always put a link somewhere. So that's it. So what are we talking about this week? Well, because we're building up to some great things kicking off, which we'll talk about at the end. Here is the thing. We are talking about changing your networking 4-letter word and grow. I thought that would catch some of y'all's attention because I just had this moment earlier this week, or last week I should say, when I was putting out a posting and some information about the upcoming masterclass on diversifying your network, your professional network, and how you can do that. And that's going to be coming up at the end of the month. And I had great response, but one of my colleagues was like, "Oh my God, this is so scary." And I was like, "Wait, why? Why is this scary?" And she's like, I don't do networking and I don't do people. So that's super scary to me. Sounds like a great thing, but super scary. And I was like, you know what? This means it is definitely time to go back to revisiting some of those basics, starting with the quit cussing about networking and let's help reframe how you address it. And thus the title of changing your network from changing your networking 4-letter word and grow. So no more expletives, but think about it in terms of this new 4-letter word, which is grow. And we have a lovely little acronym that we're going to use. But the first thing that you have to remember is that networking is not negative, okay? When you grow, when you do these things we're about to talk about. And here's the reason why. Most of the time, people associate networking with the old school slimy happy hour, shoving your business cards in a bunch of people's faces and then moving on and feeling like you need to take a bath afterwards, right? That is not what I teach. That is not how I've ever engaged in it because I don't like doing that either, right? As outgoing as I am, doing those networking happy hours always felt a little off to me until I figured out a way to do it differently. And that was when you go into an event, an opportunity, a conference, a workshop, it doesn't matter what, but with a different mindset, one focused on how you can give, not just what you can get from someone, as well as being very deliberate about your networking and about your relationship building, because that is also the key. All right. So I have slid into the first point, which is G is for gain a new perspective, right? when you gain a new perspective about how you network and about what networking is, it completely will shift your mindset and your approach when it comes to those events that normally scare you away. The first thing you have to remember is you want to be authentic. If you're not able to be authentic in who you are and, when you're engaging in these relationship building opportunities, then there's something wrong, right? Because even if you are the most reserved person, or you think you're like, I'm too shy, or I really don't like it, makes me uncomfortable, then that means you're trying to do something that fits someone else's personality and not your own. So that's why when people tell me all the time, like, oh no, I can't do it because, I don't have the, the personality for it or whatever. Baloney. You all have the personality for building relationships. And that's how you need to reframe it. Okay. And again, focus on the giving and not the getting. This is what I call net giving. When you focus on what can I bring to the conversation and add value, then that takes the focus off of you trying to, quote, get something from a stranger. I mean, think about how ridiculous that is. I'm like, you're not a used car salesperson. And even if you are, you still have better skill sets than that. You should. So when you reframe that and think about what can I give, and that I'm just sitting here having a conversation with someone and learning more about them so that I can figure out along the way, it's like, maybe there's something that I can offer. Maybe there's someone I can connect them with. Maybe there's an article I can send to them later. You don't know what that thing is going to be. Now, the difference here and why this makes this different than your usual networking that causes people to use expletives afterwards is because this means you will have to slow down and engage in real conversations. Ta-da! There we go. That is the secret. You have to slow down and engage in real conversations. When you slow down and engage in real conversations, and, I like to write these things down, then that means you don't have time to run around shoving your business card in someone's faces. Now, right now, these days, we're not doing that very much, right? But even so, even theoretically, and, in a way that where you're just like running up on someone, or maybe you're sending a cold email to someone or something like that. That's not the way to do it. It's how you engage. It's hey, can we schedule 15 minutes, time to get on the phone? Yes, that's still a thing. You can still use your phone to talk to people, and get to know you. I had one of the most fabulous weeks last week when it comes to networking. That I've had in a long time, right? And I do this regularly, yeah, right? This is my thing. But I was being extremely deliberate because I was trying to get to something, and I had so many incredible conversations last week that my mind is blown. Like, I had to take notes while we were talking because that's how fabulous they were. And I didn't want to lose anything so that I can follow up with them. Okay, that's the type of relationship building. That's the thing that takes more effort. So, you're not going to go in somewhere and meet 50 people and then come out and think, oh, okay, well, what was that all about? No, if you're going to go somewhere, you're going to focus on meeting 5 and connecting with 5 people very deliberately, in a very engaged manner. Because those 5 can take you way further than a fake interaction with 50. True fact. Okay? So, gain a new perspective. Next part, R, is for review and reflect how you engage with your professional network. Most people do not do this. So, even if you think you don't have a network, which is not true, you do, the question is, what is the status of that network? And this is where many people fall down because they do not nurture their network. Something I stress that I really, drive home with my clients and in my trainings, you have to nurture your network. It's just like a plant. If you don't water the plant, if you don't feed the plant, it will die. it will die. I was like, no question about it. Eventually, it will die. Same thing for your professional network. If you do not nurture it by staying in touch with people, by exchanging information, by giving value, then eventually those relationships will die off. They will shrivel up. You'll look up, it's 5 years. You're like, I haven't talked to so-and-so in forever. And you see their name on some article or, on some list somewhere. And you're like, oh, man, I really dropped the ball on that one. Okay? Now, here's the thing. I am not saying you have to go out and, virtually touch 5,000 people, right? That's not even what I'm saying. But I do tell people that if you reach out to a certain number of people over a period of time, it keeps it refreshed. Just exercising that networking muscle will keep things in flow. And when you reach out to one person, without a doubt, it always connects you up with 2 or 3 others. Because they will go talk to someone. They're like, oh yeah, I talked to Patricia last week. They're like, really, how's it going? And all of a sudden you've got an email from someone that you hadn't talked to in a while. I mean, the circle goes. But if you don't step into the circle and put your 2 cents in, there's not going to be anything to flow back to you. I mean, that's just the bottom line. You have to put something in. You have to nurture your relationships, right? And I'm talking about professional ones, but we know what happens in personal ones as well. Well, the same thing goes for your professional relationships. And in different levels. Like I said, everyone is not at the quote same level, right? You have people that because you work with them or you're at a company, and so you're engaged with them, every day, every 2 weeks, every month, right? There are some people in your network that you may only see once every 3 or 4 months. Or even once or twice a year. Or maybe you don't even see them once a year, but you talk to them once a year, right? I have several of those. But there are also relationships that are 20 and 30 years old. No lie. My mentor from college, we still stay in touch. She has moved out of the city, out of the state long time ago. But when I go to where she is on the East Coast or she comes back to Texas, we always touch bases, even if we don't physically get in the same space. We'll call. I'm like, hey, I'm in the city. I don't know if we'll be able to get together, but I just want to touch bases. And guess what? It's always fabulous when you actually do get to touch bases with them in person. But just reaching out in and of itself is such a fantastic thing. I just had a conversation this past weekend with a young business person who I'm working with on some things. He's just fabulous. And we were talking about, a couple of his other clients who are going to be doing a lot of traveling and they want to bring them along to do some of this work. And I was like, yeah, that's fantastic. Meet up with the folks that they have. I said, but here's the other thing, how you double dip on that. So you go check your network, and wherever you're going, that city you're going to, you plan ahead and you send a note out to your folks and say, hey guys, I'm going to be traveling, in this part of the country over this time period. Let me know where you're going to be or if you're going to be around, so hopefully we can catch up. That alone, you will be surprised. You will be surprised at who reaches out to you. And you can't make presumptions because people move around a lot, especially after this pandemic. People have moved all over the place, right? They've changed cities, they've changed states, even countries. So you cannot make presumptions about it, but you do have to put it out there and it will come back to you. I hadn't thought of it in these terms, but on one of my coaching calls, so with my coach and working with the group, I had put something out there I didn't even think about, right? I offered up something, made a connection, and later on, something big came back to me. But I hadn't thought of it in those terms. My coach pointed it out. She was like, yeah, but that's because you put some good stuff out into the universe and it circled back around to you. And you weren't even thinking about it in those terms, but that's how it works. And it's so true. Okay? So don't get worked up about it. Just do what comes natural. And then, we can always talk about specific strategies, but you want to make sure you review and reflect on how you're engaging with your network, if you are engaging with your network, and if not, then making notes about what it is you need to do differently. That's the key. All right? Don't just review and then reflect and like, oh, you have to remember that you have to do something that takes, so that you can take action on it. Right? That's more stuff that's not for this session. Other stuff that I've done before. We can talk a little bit more about that later. Just give me a call. Okay. The O is overcome your fears. This is a biggie. Most of the time when people say they hate networking, it's really about the fact that they are fearful or scared or extremely uncomfortable about something that is associated with the process. All right. So you could be scared of or have a fear about public speaking, right? Because most of the time you have to engage with somebody in unknown circumstances and you're trying to initiate a conversation with a perfect stranger. And that makes many people very uncomfortable. I don't care how extroverted you are. There can still be those moments. There are those moments when I'm at something and I'm like, I do not feel this. I do not feel this. So I'm like, fix your head, fix your face, and like reframe and let's go. All right. Because then it's like, don't look at the big thing. Look at one thing. Who can you connect with right now? Who is one person you can connect with? Okay. So maybe it's a fear of public speaking. Maybe it's a fear of crowds. So you're like, I don't care what you're saying. I am not going to one of those horrid happy hours. I hate those things. I get it. I'm the person, I've told this story many times. I'm the person who, as a baby lawyer in my first job, because I was the baby lobbyist and baby lawyer, I was the one that got to walk into the political receptions to hand off the check to the politicians, and glad hand. I hated that. But it was part of the job. So that means I had to adjust. And what did I do? I was like, okay, I have to go to this thing. I always had a plan, a timing when I would go, maybe making a connection, asking someone else another colleague, hey, are you going to be at this thing? Okay, well, I'll meet up, we'll meet up there. Or also saying, hey, I have to go. I'll go hand over this check. I'll go show my face. I'll go represent the company. And then I'll make sure that I connect with so-and-so if they're there, or this other person, because we're working on this project together, and we'll see see if I can talk to them then. I always went with that mindset. When I learned to flip that and to do that piece, then most of the times I'd end up staying way longer than I intended, because I ran into someone, we started chit-chatting, we started getting into some things or whatever, and or I was able to accomplish what I needed to and could get out. Okay? So there's always some way. So fear of public speaking, fear of crowds. Again, you don't even have to be in a big crowd, right? Maybe you do things much more personally. That's another strategy that I use and teach is, you identify 2 or 3 people and you make sure that you have 2 or 3 coffees a week, on your schedule. And even in these pandemic times, you can still do that virtually. Trust you me, I know it. I think I had at least 5 networking chats last week with brand new people I did not know. We got on the phone. I did not know them. They were referred to me. I was referred to them. We got on a phone. We got on a Zoom, and we started talking and sharing information and learning more about each other. And now I've got a whole new, set of people added to my professional network, and that I know that I'm going to be able to reach out to for some various projects that I have coming up. Legit, they're on the list. Okay? So it takes time, and it takes effort. Okay? So let's see, we've knocked off public speaking, we've knocked off crowds, we've knocked off being, quote, introverted, because you can reach out to people individually via one-on-one conversations, small group conversations. What are some other things? Your fear of just, I don't know if it's missing out. I'm like, oh, well, I don't have enough time to do this, and I'm going to miss out on doing these other things for work or whatever. Guess what? if you're doing it right, it actually augments the work that you're doing. It may even make it easier because if you connect with the right person, they may be able to provide you some information, some resources, or something that will benefit you and make your work easier. How's that for an idea? Right? So, whatever your fear is, write it down, do the pros and cons of it, and then let's figure out a strategy. Let's figure out things that you can do, baby steps to overcome them, but to lay them out there on the table and not use it as an excuse not to grow yourself professionally. Because this is not just about growing your network. This is about you growing as a professional. If you have a career, if you have a job, if there's any stuff you want to do and get ahead in, then you have to learn how to build out your professional relationships in order to augment it and so that it can grow and you can grow faster. Okay? All right. The final point is W. Win every day with your networking relationships. This I dipped into a little bit, which is when you start nurturing your relationships, being very deliberate about it, changing your perspective and your mindset about it, you literally can have a win every single day. What do I mean by that? Well, it's the unexpected email that says, hey, I was thinking about you and I think there's someone that you need to meet. And so I want to connect you with that. Is that okay? Sure. Or, hey, this opportunity just came up. I put your name into the pool. Hope that's fine with you. Sure, right? These things happen. These are not imaginary, superfluous. I made that up. Like, this is stuff that has happened to me in real time recently. Okay? A few weeks back, one of my old mentees reached out to me. We hadn't talked in some months. We had been planning to try and get together. It just didn't work out, even during this pandemic. And so, but we've just stayed in touch via email, but we hadn't even talked in a few months. And she reached out. She's like, hey, this thing is going on. And I want you to know I submitted your name for it. And I would really like to be able to get you on the phone with the right people so that we could talk about, the opportunity and if you would be interested in it. Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely. And we get on the phone, twofold, a double win. Not only did I like what I heard about the opportunity and said yes, but the person who I was talking to, my mentee dropped off. She had another call. But my mentee, the person I was talking to, turns out has the exact type of background that I need to dip into to learn more about being able to serve my clients at a higher level. And I can now connect directly with that person so that we can leverage those relationships. She's like, oh yeah, absolutely, call me. We can get together for coffee. I'd love to learn more about what you're doing and how I can help you. Totally was not expecting that. But that is what happens. When you are building those relationships out, when you're being deliberate about what it is you're doing and taking the honest reflection of how you're engaging and what fears you are using as excuses, you really and truly can have a win every day when you are building out your professional relationships. And that is what we've been talking about. So we've been changing your networking 4-letter word, and so you can grow. And the growing is when remembering that networking is not a negative. It is very much a positive, especially when you reframe it and think of it in terms of how you are building out your professional relationships for your career, for your business, for whatever aspect you're doing. I have leveraged my community relationships greatly. I see one of my community partners and dear friends on right now. How are you doing? And, but this is a perfect example. Like when you connect with people and you leverage those relationships for various purposes, it can be something that feeds both of you and multiples of you on a regular basis. right? This is that part that I reminded you. You don't have to know 500 people. You don't have to stay in touch with 500 people. You probably just need to stay in touch with 5 to 50 over an extended period of time. It actually can be much more than that. If you use my system of reaching out to 3 to 5 people a week, you will easily reach a couple of hundred people in a year's time. But if I told you to go out and reach out to 200 people, you would be like, I can't do that. But if you reach out to 3 to 5 people every week, that's exactly the number you get to. Tiny, tiny bites, very strategic actions that are authentic to you. Gain that new perspective, review and reflect how you engage with your professional network, overcome your fears, and stop using them as excuses so that you can have a win in every day in your networking relationships. That's what we've been talking about here today. So here's what's coming up, all right? I love this. And speaking of growing your professional relationships, this topic has been with me for well over a year. I am ashamed to admit that I sat on it for over a year, but I have finally birthed it and we are doing it. Diversifying your professional relationships, a networking masterclass is happening starting June 28th through July 2nd. It will happen every day at 11:30 a.m. Central Time and go for about 75 minutes. Here's what we're doing in this session. I have brought in 2 speakers, one who is a DE&I expert who will help to level set our conversation at the beginning so that we're all on the same page of what we're talking about. We're going to talk about how diversity absolutely includes the race and ethnicity and all the things that are, quote, triggering people these days, but who cares? I mean, it's the reality of our world, and I'm sorry if that sounds flippant, but it also extends to making sure that you diversify your relationships in so many ways. Okay? People just want to narrow in on one aspect, but guess what? If you're an engineer who wants to get into management, you probably need to stop talking to engineers and start talking to some business people. How about that? Or, if you are an arts person who wants to build out a company, then maybe you need to start talking to some people who have built out companies. This means you have to get outside your comfort zone and start integrating and engaging with other people, other types of people who do not have a background like yours, who do not look like you in so many ways, whether it's economically, socially, gender. I mean, there's just a whole host of things. That is what we're going to be talking about that week, okay? And then my second guest is going to come on because she is one of my new dear colleagues from my women's networking group, and she's going to talk about a very specific, very recent situation that arose in her profession where the issue of diversity blew back in the professional association's face and how they're dealing with it. So if you think this does not affect you in your profession, you're wrong. It affects all of us. And how you deal with it and how you address it is absolutely crucial to your long-term professional growth. Now, if you don't care about diversifying your network, if you don't care about growing long-term, if you don't care about how you can give back and grow others around you to lift all boats so that everyone rises, then don't come to this workshop. I'm just going to tell you that. If you're too scared, there's one thing to be scared, but to dig in and jump in anyways, that's great. But if you're not willing to be open-minded, to get uncomfortable, and to think honestly about where you are with your relationships, this may not be the workshop for you. However, if you are interested, if you are excited about, hey, I really and truly need to diversify the group of people that I hang out with. Things are looking a little bland, right? They're looking a little vanilla, and I want banana split. Right? And so you got to be able to do it. It takes effort. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about it in a non-judgmental way with the mindset work and how you can reframe that, but also with very specific targeted strategies of ideas of that any one of us can implement, and we can do that immediately. This workshop is over the course of 5 days, as you heard. It will be recorded so that if you miss them live, it is okay, because you will be sent the link daily to it and have access to that link for, I think, through July 9th. You will also be able to see these things in a pop-up Facebook group. So we are doing a pop-up Facebook group, which I haven't done in a while, but we're going to do that so that people can engage with each other throughout the course of the week. This wonderful, wonderful project has come together for the low rate and investment of $97. Honestly, I know it's ridiculous, but I want people who are truly invested in it to come. Right? This is not just something you wander through. I want you to be deliberate and who really wants to be there. And so that's how you make that happen. So for that low fee, that low investment fee, that's really what it is. How it gets you to make sure you're serious about it, and you will have access to it. You will get a workbook, you'll get daily exercises. It's all the things for $97. I mean, it's like a steal. Okay. So, I encourage you to click. I will drop the link below, so you can do there, or you can go to any of my social media pages, and it's there. It should be on here as well, but I will drop it in again, and so that you can go straight in, get signed up, and be registered and ready to go. And I also would welcome you sharing this out with your network, with your connections, with your relationships. I would greatly appreciate it. That is what I have for you today. So if you have any questions, if you have folks, if you're checking this and you're like, you know what, that's great, I want to do the workshop, but I also want to talk to you a little more in depth about what we can do to work together, just hit me up in the DMs, send me a message. I will follow up, send you my calendar link so that we can get scheduled and have a chit chat about what that looks like, doing some other work together, because I have some other programs and things that are going as well. That is what I have for you all today. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here with me today. I look forward to talking with you all this week, and let me know what I can do for you, okay? Take care. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Bye-bye.